Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Viewers Discretion. I think I called it Viewers Discretion everywhere. I might have called the following program. I'm not sure. I apologize for my lateness. I came in here by train, and on the way in, I was like, I have to go live when I get home. So I came running back from the train station to here. I'm here now. We're doing this here now. I jumped in on a space where they're talking about this whole DOJ release. There's a release from the DOJ that I'm going to share with you. I'm in this space on a panel now, arguing with someone who certainly seems to have great issues with Jews, who's saying that Epstein was definitely 100% certainly absolutely positively Mossad. Either that or Israeli, either that or Jewish, either that or a code name Jaime. But definitely. And I do not dispute the fact that it's very possible he was. I can't rule that out. But I think that the only evidence is his ties to Ghislaine Maxwell and Robert Maxwell, who people speculate that Robert Maxwell, I think there's much more speculation Robert Maxwell, that he worked for multiple agencies, including Mossad, including CIA, including KGB, including MI6. So now to deduce from there that Epstein is definitely, because he worked with Ghislaine, daughter of Robert Maxwell, now was working exclusively for Mossad. I don't know how you draw that. So I'm in this space arguing with Myron from Fresh and Fit, who's basically been saying, oh, yeah, obviously you're an effing retard if you don't realize that he clearly was working for Mossad. It's like, okay. But let me share with you, before I get into the America Party, I want to share with you, because I am still in this space. I plan on staying there for a while, for as long as it makes sense here. Because I'm going to play it for you. You can't hear them now. I can sort of hear them screaming in the background there. And I'll bring it up to the mic. But first, I want to make sure you're all caught up on the news. And specifically, the news is referencing something that I helped post out there. I saw it like 5 minutes after it came out and right before I saw it go live. And that was this story right here. This is it right here. I don't think you can read this. And before I share this anymore, this is what purports to be a letter from the U.S. DOJ and FBI. People are pointing out there's no date on it. There's no specific department that's referenced as putting this out. It was reported by Axios, and it's also reported by other accounts that I trust that this came out from the DOJ and FBI. And I'm going to read the letter with you. This is regarding Jeffrey Epstein. And it reads, this will be a little bigger. I can do it this way. As part of our commitment to transparency, the DOJ and the FBI have conducted an exhaustive review of investigative holdings relating to Jeffrey Epstein. To ensure that the review was thorough, the FBI conducted digital searches. They don't usually just jump into FBI without defining it. See, so I do have questions about that. To ensure the review was thorough, the FBI conducted digital searches of its databases, hard drives, and network drives, as well as physical searches of squad areas, locked cabinets, desks, closets, and other areas where responsive material have been stored. These searches uncovered a significant amount of material, including more than 300 gigabytes of data and physical evidence. The files relating to Epstein include a large volume of images, or Epstein images, and videos of victims who are either minors or appear to be minors, and over 10,000 downloaded videos and images of illegal child sex abuse material and other pornography. Teams of agents, analysts, attorneys, and privacy and civil liberty experts combed through the digital and documentary evidence with an aim of providing as much information as possible to the public while simultaneously protecting victims. Much of the material is subject to court-ordered sealing. Only a fraction of this material would have been aired publicly had Epstein gone to trial, as the seal served only to protect victims and not expose any additional third parties to allegations of illegal wrongdoing. Through this review, we found no basis to revisit the disclosure of those materials and will not permit the release of child pornography. See, this doesn't read like that's why. Obviously, you're not going to release You're not going to permit that. You see, that to me sounds a little weird as I'm rereading this. I posted this out there. I'm rereading this a little more closely now. And I agree that that's a weird thing for them to say. We're not going to be releasing it because that's immoral and a crime. Like, who would think you would? This systemic review revealed no incriminating client list. There were also no credible evidence found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. That's very surprising. No one can explain how that could possibly be. We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties, consistent with prior disclosures. This review confirmed that Epstein harmed over 1,000 victims. Each suffered unique trauma. Sensitive information relating to these victims is intertwined throughout the materials. This includes specific details such as victim names and likenesses, physical descriptions, places of birth, associates, and employment history. One of our highest priorities is combating child exploitation and bringing justice to victims. Perpetuating unfounded theories about Epstein serves neither of those ends. To that end, while we have labored to provide the public with the maximum information regarding Epstein and ensured examination, see, they was a transparency. They keep talking about transparency. I feel like this might be a rough draft. That's what I'm feeling like, because it does sound has a lot of something sound to legitimacy, and there's a little bit which I'm just like, To that end, while we've labored, people have commented about different fonts. That there's one font here and a different font down here. To that end, while we have labored to provide the public maximum information regarding Epstein and ensured examination of evidence in any evidence in the government's possession, it is the determination of the Department of Justice and Federal Bureau of Investigation. You see, we can go back to calling it Federal Bureau of Investigation after you referred to as FBI above. There's certain things that just don't sound right. That no further disclosures would be appropriate or warranted. After a thorough investigation, FBI investigators concluded that Jeffrey Epstein committed self-deletion in his cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York City on August 10, 2019. This conclusion is consistent with previous findings, including the August 19, 2019 autopsy findings in the New York City Office of the Chief Medical Examiner, the November 2019 position of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York in connection with the investigation of federal correctional officers responsible for guarding Epstein, and the June 2023 conclusions of the DOJ Office of Inspector General. The conclusion that Epstein died by self-deletion is further supported by video footage from the common area of the special housing unit where Epstein was housed at the time of his death. You see how they define it as SHU? They didn't do that with FBI. That's what's weird. That could make this a rough draft. Or it could mean that this is completely bunk. Where Epstein was housed at the time of his death. As DOJ's Inspector General explained in 2023, anyone entering or attempting to enter the tier where Epstein's cell was located from the SHU common area would have been captured by this footage. The FBI's independent review of this footage confirmed that from the time Epstein was locked in his cell in around 10:40 p.m. on August 9, 2019, until around 6:30 a.m. the next morning, nobody entered any of the tiers of the SHU. During this review, the FBI enhanced the relevant footage by increasing its contrast, balancing the color, and improving its sharpness for greater clarity and viewability. The full raw enhanced videos are available at the following links. Well, let's take a look at those links, shall we? Let's see if there's anything to be found on these links. Justice.gov. That's a weird link to have that just be video file. That's a retarded sounding link. That link doesn't seem to. That's what it is. Justice.gov video file. One. Like the government has only one video file. That seems like a weird extension. But let's see what we get when we look that up. I'm going to try to put that in. www. It's justice? Wouldn't it be DOJ? Justice.gov. There is something for justice.gov. It would be a long extension. It wouldn't be video. I want to show you when I start putting in justice.gov, www.justice. See this long thing? USAO-SNDY /media/ this whole long thing. And then /DL. That's something I actually downloaded from justice.gov. Something that says justice.gov /video-file1 sounds ridiculous. If all of a sudden everything blacks out here, it means my computer exploded when I typed this in here. Video. I'm scared. File 1. Okay, that's weird. This is what we got. $10 hours. I assume. See how the phone looks different there? How does the phone look different? What? I'm not watching 10 hours of video here, but that phone looks different. Look how long it looks compared to how short it looks over here. Look how long the phone looks over here. It's not that someone used it. The phone looks shorter. Yes, someone used it, Batman. Look at the phone. It looks like it's a different phone. See? Longer, shorter. Longer. I'll make this play faster. What angles? It's not called angles. The phone this is all one angle. Glad you're here. I've been drinking, not doing well, but you always seem to help. Thank you for that. I sometimes forget to like until reminded. Yeah, you guys should all hit the like button. I came here on a Sunday night for you guys. Oh, someone's coming. Someone's coming. The phone looks the same length now. J.H. Schwalbach, Jeffrey Epstein never existed. That would explain a lot. He's a figment of your imagination. There's nothing to see here. These are not the droids you're looking. These are not the droids you're looking. These are not the droids you're looking for. Anyway, I can't explain it. I can't explain it. I am going to check in on this thing. This is a panel I'm on, which has like 2,000 people listening to it.
that suspect is out.
Okay. But here's the thing. I've been not certainly this is pretty much the biggest news drop ever, but I've been parts of things, and you got to take big action. And if you do something, you could do the quiet retraction where you pull back the asset. But if it's this public and out, you've got to do damage control. They would have to come over the top of that if indeed they were trying to fix a fuck up. And a fuck up would be known by all. Every editor in the fucking publication is getting a call.
Right? Yeah, that's a lot of speculation. I'm just gonna go with
Someone's coming.
There's the document and other users also verified, and different multiple different fonts used in the documents. The alignment, the formatting, the language were off. It was missing key letterheads, page numbers, and a date as per se a normal DOJ release document, official document. So the format of the document itself is quite fishy. There's no official DOJ release.
Yeah, they say they can't explain why that happened either. Thank you for the very generous super chat, brother. I have my hand raised. See? The link's not dead. I'm looking at the dead net now.
All of these esteemed careers are going to throw themselves backwards against this particular point. It's not a real momentum winner, obviously, by all accounts. This is one thing that unifies people on both sides of the aisle. I don't think the administration, as it's looking to garner support, is going to shit on all sides. So, yeah, it's just strategically horrible. I have to see that there's another piece missing. And I think you're right to question the validity, and I'd like to see things moving in toward the retraction side.
Well, this speaks more to what Trent's discourse was saying earlier when, he started kind of going down the path of saying, he thought that this looked like it could have been a psyop of some kind. And if it turns out that this was fake, then that would actually kind of point towards what he was saying. And it's not necessarily that, okay, this doesn't discount the validity of, the Epstein files and that there's a serious problem there and that this needs to be investigated. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that this particular thing being dropped right now on a Sunday.
Her voice, I struggle with her voice.
A lot of the sentiment that we're hearing from people isn't just solely based off of this, right? Like, people are upset about Pam Bondi flip-flopping and Cash Patel flip-flopping and handing out the binders and then nothing.
See how long the phone looks now?
Like,
there it's short. Here it's long. 139.34 to 146. I want to see how it jumps like that.
Just want to point something out real quick. The timing on this makes absolutely no sense when you think of Donald Trump. You know about Donald Trump, okay? He has Bibi Netanyahu, and now I don't care what you think of Bibi Netanyahu. Just look at the optics for a second, okay? He has Bibi Netanyahu coming to the White House tomorrow in a what is supposed to be like a winning celebration, right? They bombed Iran a couple years, right? He's coming there celebratory and also to sign a peace deal. Why in the hell would Donald Trump
I agree with that.
FBI release this tonight when that's happening tomorrow morning, knowing that the press is going to be asking questions, knowing that they would want good optics for the administration going into this. This looks like a hit to have the Epstein question come up at the press conference with Bibi and Trump.
I'll fix it now. Sorry about that. Yeah, can I?
You have to trash your publication. So, if that's a play used as such intentionally to derail the night before a big event, then that's somebody who's trashed.
That's what everyone wants to know.
Because even if I'm the senior editor, and some junior
has trashed their reputation a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, I would say all legacy.
But they're owned by
Fox Media. That's kind of a big. I mean, that they would do it intentionally. If that's what I'm
You think
saying.
about the Russia,
Oh my God.
hoax, the shit that they were like
It's
people
like this
in
is
the mainstream
just
media were
so
releasing. They don't give
shut
a
up.
shit.
You could just easily do a retraction. And I would be
Oh my
curious
gosh.
to hear from it.
Sword.
Yeah, can I make, as a lawyer, can I make a point to you all? Can I make a They don't stop. They don't stop.
Thing that
Yeah, can I just, I'll make a point to you.
Stop talking over everyone. So
Can I just, can all right, the point I want to make to you is this. As someone who's drafted more than a couple of lawyer letters, and these FBI notices tend to sound like a lawyer letter, I'll point out to you several things beyond the font change, which just seem odd and unusual. The first of which is that when the way they use the term FBI and then go back to, they first refer to Federal Bureau of Investigation, then say FBI, then say Federal Bureau of Investigation when they want to make a point that this is a statement from the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Then they go back to FBI. That's not something you would see. Also, you would see that much as how they define the housing unit over there, and they call it SHU. You give a definition, meaning with all caps, you define a term. So even something as well known as the FBI, they would put in parentheses normally Federal Bureau of Investigation, and then if in the balance of the letter you're going to refer to the Federal Bureau of Investigation as FBI, you would put that in parentheses right after the first time you use the term, and then you would never go back to using Federal Bureau of Investigation. This is something that every lawyer who's written 2 letters in their life knows. And anyone who's writing this letter for the DOJ would certainly know that this is just it's a childlike mistake for an attorney to make. At the same time, the language here seems to be something that is a little bit outside of what most attorneys would know. In other words, this is not layman term language for the type of footage that they would review, and in that sense, it's a little strange. Now, I want to point to the points that make it seem legitimate and illegitimate. And that, yes, so that's what I want to show you. I want to show you the parts that make it seem legitimate and illegitimate. The illegitimacy I was just pointing to as far as the formatting of the letter, not just the font, but the language in the letter. In fact, some of the language in the letter in general is a little bit strange in that they refer to privacy rather than sensitive. They say we're not going to release child pornography. You wouldn't say that. You wouldn't phrase it that way, because obviously the DOJ is not going to release child pornography. So you wouldn't even have to say, you wouldn't phrase it that way. What I'm saying is there's certain phrasing in here which makes it seem like it's definitely not written by someone who would be hired by the DOJ, much less producing content for the public to review from the DOJ. At the same time, I am right now looking at the link that they provide there, justice.gov/video-files/video1. And I actually am watching a link which purports to be some sort of cell, the outside of some cell from August 9th, 2019. And if any of you can go there and click on it, you'll see it's a 10-hour and 52-minute and 23-second long video, which is basically the camera trained on what I assume is supposed to be the outside of his cell. Now, when I first saw the extension there, I was like, this is a really weird extension that the DOJ would have something that's so short that you normally would see a whole series of letters and weird things. I have things that when I start putting in justice.gov, I'll get a / and then it'll be a whole series of letters, and then something that say /DL for thing, because nothing in the DOJ is just video one. It's not just video file video one. And yet, when you go to justice.gov /video files /video one, there is a video there that I actually have up on my screen right now. And I even I'm looking at things that seem like a little bit hokey. Can I tell you that this is actually from August 9th, 2019? Not something from some other thing with a redate that's put on here? No. But it is interesting that someone went to the trouble of putting up a video here. I haven't looked at video 2 yet, but I assume it's going to be from, hours later during the same day. I'm just sharing with you what I'm seeing here, it leads me to believe that very possibly this letter is a draft of something that is perhaps supposed to come sometime in the future, and that sometime in the future, in a few days, in a couple of weeks, that we'll see something that looks more stylized, more formalized, which indeed is along the lines of what we see here. That's what my initial takeaway is. I'd love to get feedback from the panel based on what I'm presenting here, if that makes sense to you.
There are elements of this that are authentic, but somebody wanted to put out some messaging, right, and use the authentic parts to piece together a memo that seemed real because it had some authentic elements, but some of it's not true. That's what it seems like to me. And when you look at the inconsistency with the fonts, is what makes me think that the most. Where something was or put over as a sticker in a photo editor and each mail. What do you think about that theory, Lawgic?
Well, that makes sense. Like I'm saying, I don't understand where we would have this video from. Someone has video, which definitely looks like it's the inside of a correction facility here. Go if you can click on the link. I clicked on it already. I don't think you're going to worry about your device being damaged as a result of it. I don't seem to have any problem.
So wait, Lawgic, so you look at the dead link in the Axios article, and you look to where it reads out the address that it was going to. It says final draft. So your thing about a draft, if you go to the actual Axios article where right now it's dead linking, I screenshotted it. It does say final draft on it.
Yeah, so that's you're saying that my interpretation here, there's more corroboration for that this is something. And I'll tell you something, the thing that really bothered me was, why would you release this now, with BB coming, with the America Party being announced by Elon, and frankly the way he dropped that thing, I was like, this is almost like a gift to Trump and MAGA, how poorly they dropped the America Party thing, like with the statement that woke is just a diversion and we're aiming for the middle of the road. I'm like, this is not how you're not gonna, and MAGA is history. This is not how you draw in anyone from MAGA. And I was like, that was a gift to Trump. That was a gift to the actual real conservatives who don't want any part of this. And the picture of Elon up there, as if like now he's supposed to be our new leader, like as if look, I know we voted for him in part, but he's not the guy he's not the leader of a political party. I mean, I guess he is now. Right, exactly. And it just seems like to be filled with hubris. I was like, Elon's tripping all over himself trying to come after Trump here. Why would you gift him this? Why gift him this now? You know what I'm saying?
There's some kind of something going on. If you look at go look at all the accounts that Elon won, okay, that were all Trump, all Trump, all Trump, all Trump, all throughout the election, all the way up until now. Look at the feeds. They're now posting the same Epstein type shit, right? They're all posting the same America Party type shit. My cohort just pointed out to me that a bunch of accounts that I was following, quote unquote MAGA accounts, and like commentary accounts and stuff I was following, have now rebranded to America accounts, which I think is very, very interesting when you look at all of this propaganda. They're all reposting it, they're all sharing it at the same time. Like there's definitely a big messaging campaign being waged on this platform right now. And this Epstein shit is part of it. Like it's just
Well, yes and no. Yes and no, because here's the thing. Everybody's talking about the Epstein issue right now. We're talking about the Epstein issue. It's a hot issue right now because something just came out, whether it's
I agree, Life of Brian. This is a stupid. Everything about this is stupid. You wouldn't drop this now. You would drop it 2 weeks from now. It's so weird.
Like everybody locking stuff.
Except for the fact that they're buddies. Except for the fact that they're all buddies with Elon, and Elon said that Trump was on the Epstein list. Like if you know, then I wouldn't mind maybe just take it with a grain of salt. But there is that, right?
Well, we know that there's like these like Elon sycophants, right? That they're kind of in crowd with X, and they
Yes, this is the show inside the show.
They get the boosting and whatever.
Monetize, you know what I mean? Like I'm not.
My freaking website's still banned on X, and it has been since COVID.
Does anybody know if this America Party account is real? Like the one that says America Party X at America Party X and has 244,000 followers? I feel like it's fake. It is putting.
Well, put in my hey, guys.
What, Jennifer?
It's okay. She can go. I'll go after her.
Oh, look at her being nice to you.
Boys will be boys. Don't get me started, okay? Like when someone comes at me like a misogynist. Two senses. Boys will be boys.
Okay, I don't know what she's talking about here. I'm starting to get bored by this. I'm sorry. Yesterday when I was on there, I actually on Diligent Space. He sometimes has phenomenal conversations. But it really matters a lot who's in there. Who's in there has a very significant impact because a couple of people on the panel there can really derail the entire thing. I do want to see what's happening here with this guard. Let that speed normal. I think I'm going to leave there soon because, wow. Yeah, I can't. Sometimes you just, I wish I can help. I can help something. I can have something to like vote people off the island. And that sounds very snobbish, but it's just like you're not enhancing the conversation, and it's really just noise. And here's the thing: those of you who are not happy with what was going on there, I apologize for that. It's a live show. I don't know I don't know who's gonna be there in a particular moment. I don't know who's gonna take over. And what was happening 10 minutes before, I thought was very interesting. In that I had Myron Gaines from Fresh and Fit, who was coming in there and he's arguing with me and George about whether or not it's a fair claim to say that Epstein definitively is 100% part of Mossad, which is what Myron Gaines was saying, definitely 100%. And that Diligent, what he did was he asked Grok, tell us about all intelligence agencies with that non-biased sources link Epstein to and how they come up with that. And I'm not sure if he asked about Epstein or Robert Maxwell. Robert Maxwell is Ghislaine Maxwell's father, so who was a British guy who was, I think, was a lord, and what Grok came back with was their ties that Robert Epstein has to Mossad, MI6, CIA, and KGB, from what Grok has found, and which is exactly what I had heard. I had heard that before. I had heard that many times. That Robert Maxwell was supposedly connected to a whole bunch of triple letter agencies. And I do think it makes sense to say that Epstein is tied to them. I certainly wouldn't rule out Mossad, but I think the ones who are basically like, oh, it's definitely has to be. Oh, it's got to be. Tel Aviv is all over this. I'm just like, how do you know that? Were you the handler? How do you know? How do you know that? I just wonder. Anyway, I don't think we're going to get anything from this link. I don't think we're going to see anything with this link. I don't even know. Supposedly, I guess this is supposed to be Epstein's cell. I don't know that it is even. So I'm done with that link. I don't plan on having a very long show tonight. I was like, I want to just get a couple of things out, these two topics out of the way. So if you ask me my thoughts about this Epstein thing, I do think we're probably going to see sometime in the future that somewhere along the lines of what that letter purports to say, a claim from the FBI and the DOJ that indeed that Epstein did not self-delete, and there's no evidence that he blackmailed anyone, even though we have tons of evidence of him with over having 1,000 underage victims. Now, that's exactly what they were trying to sell us during the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, that he was just a super pervy guy who had lots of money. How? We don't know. We don't know how he got his money. Just had unlimited access to funds, and that alone is crazy. Did he pay taxes on any of that? Do we see tax records? What is happening there? How does someone come across having $1 billion? That you would think that the IRS would have tons of records. And the guy's buying islands, for crying out loud. Helicopters, airplanes, really lavish apartments in Palm Beach, in New York City. These things cost a lot of money. The guy was a professor at MIT. So you tell me, we know he had this weird connection with Les Wexner. And that's another thing also. That's why I'm just trying to, I don't know. Someone in the CIA had to know about it because he was arrested. Someone has to know. And then Acosta let him go. In 2007, he's arrested, and not only does he get a sweetheart deal of 2 years despite harming hundreds of young girls. 2 years. 2 years plus a plea deal for himself and 2 other associates. How? How does that happen? But I think you're making a correct point there also, which is, and that's why I'm like, people get so in a tizzy, like, you can't say this. I'm like, I don't know. I don't like when people try saying you can't say that it's Mossad. Maybe it is. Does that mean that Mossad today is that the Israeli government is sponsoring this? Does that mean Trump? By that logic, Trump is sponsoring everything that ever happened in America, and I sure as hell don't accept either of those positions. Cars and Depth says, I think the Epstein thing is a red herring and tend to get the right all excited, a lot like Obama's birth location. Yeah, it does feel like that sometimes. It does feel like that. Can you log into X and share Spaces audio on stream? The reason I didn't want to do that is because I've done that in the past. And when I log in there, you're going to hear the audio on lag. And then if I talk, it gets very confusing for you. It gets very, very confusing for you. The only way I can do that is if I mute myself on mic here. And then you see my mouth moving. And then 10 seconds later, you'll hear my voice talking like I'm a bad dubbing from an Asian movie. So I don't like doing that. I much prefer if I can hold it up like this and do it that way, which I wasn't holding it up against the mic enough. And I apologize for that, but I think I was doing it better near the end. But the women on there are just, their voices are so shrill sometimes. I just like they're screaming and don't stop talking. And I'm just like, I'm not getting enough. I don't feel I'm getting enough value for the decibel. I have a decibel value level, which I don't feel I don't feel we're in sync there with what, if you have a certain decibel, you need to be bringing a higher level value. The nicer someone's voice is, the longer you can listen to them. Musk just needs to flip a dozen or so seats in Congress to gridlock Trump. Musk's alliance was only about getting rid of Biden and was never based on policy. Gridlocking Trump is Elon's goal. I think that makes sense. But I don't think he's going to get the seats. I think what he's likely to do is just to skunk a whole bunch of Republicans. And just you'll end up seeing like a blue wave in 2026 potentially. I don't think he's going to get the seats. especially, and that's why we should. This is the perfect thing for me to, especially when you see what he came out with today, and I'm just like, this is so stupid. This is incompetence. Who is more his target audience than me? Tell me who the guy is that's more his target audience than me. Because I actually, have potential of influencing other folks. He's trying to woo over the MAGA base, right? I mean, that's what he's trying to do. That's why I wrote this here. This is what they came out with. I'm just like, this is stupid. Let me pull this up for you. This is what the America Party X came out with. MAGA is the past. Woke is a distraction. The middle is the future. America Party is the party of the middle majority. What? No. No. No, no, no. 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 MAGA is the past. Woke is a distraction. And a picture of Elon here, like he's supposed to be like the working man here. That's why he's all bloodied. And like he's like the American hero. Everything about this seems arrogance. No, MAGA is not the past. Everything about, and the middle is the future. That never worked ever in any political sphere. That never worked. Saying we're the middle. That never worked. This is such a losing message. Everything about this message says loser all over it. Trying too hard to make Elon look cool, and just loser all over it. No. Everything about this just felt totally wrong to me. Totally 100% wrong. And that's why I tweeted out. I said, I should be America Party's target demographic. My audience is their target. Yet somehow everything about this is wrong. Every word in the statement, the picture, everything is completely this is just wrong. This is just wrong. Nothing about this is right. No. So you tell me, if you think that the America Party could be beneficial, and I'm all with you on the spending. I'm all with you that I think Trump, I don't like the idea of spending. I don't want to be spending trillions of dollars. I don't know that we are. I think a lot of people just are throwing out the number 5 trillion as if that's the definitive thing. And I don't think that that's necessarily true. I think that's speculation to some degree. But I think that you have to come up with pragmatically how are we going to get things through. You sort of, if you're something that has to be a bill, how are you getting this through? And you can't tell me that this method over here, this method of let's burn it all down and start with a brand new party at a time that we are that MAGA is at full throat in controlling the Republican Party. To me, this seems foolish. Mamdani, for example, is a progressive. He's not coming in as the Progressive Party or some new party. He's taking over the Democrat Party. MAGA took over the Republican Party. That's how you win. You win by taking over the party. You don't win by bringing in a third party. Not if there's only two parties out there, because all you're doing is peeling off votes so that no one wins, other than the one who's not being peeled off from, which in this case, the Democrats. So it almost feels like you're offering them like a life preserver. Democratic Party is in shambles. They have no leadership. They have no one there. And this is the ultimate life preserver that we're throwing out at this party, which should be dead. It's the party of racism, the party of racism, initial racism, the party of reverse racism, the party of terrible ideas, the party of disastrous foreign policy, disastrous economic policy, disastrous constitutional perspectives, disastrous idiotic judges. They're the party of everything self-destructive. They are communism wrapped up as a Democratic Party. They are so awful in every way imaginable. And finally, that's been exposed. Finally, that's been exposed so much so that they can't even figure out who should be the leader of the Democratic Party. And the second in charge, the guy who's leading, feels threatened by the guy who's second in charge because he's got more followers on X. I mean, who's the leader of the Democratic Party? No one knows. No one knows. They're in shambles. So what are you going to do at this point? Oh, we're going to come along and we're just going to fracture the Republican Party. Because Mamdani won a primary? Like, what is happening here? Because you don't like the bill? There's a bill that went out that you don't like? You ignore the hundreds of things that he's done in 5 months? You ignore the fact that Donald Trump is more popular than ever before 5 months into his term, more popular than any president has been 5 months into their own term in the last 50 years. And CNN is even admitting it. You ignore the fact that he just completely like leveled all of Iran's nuclear capabilities. So let's just ignore the way he dominates the entire world. And all of a sudden, let's just fracture the party and just like, oh, okay, let's come along with the America Party. I'm sorry. This is wrong. Everything and this messaging of this party, which at first I was like, oh, you know what? Maybe it could shake some of the neocons out. This doesn't feel like the right time for it. This feels very reactionary. And I thought it was interesting that he was pointing to various MAGA accounts who all of a sudden now are dropping the label MAGA and embracing the term America. America, America, America. He mentioned ALX. I want to look that guy up. It's a big account, this guy. Wow. Wow. He's right. He's right. No reference to MAGA anymore. What is this? What is that? This is a stupid question. She's in jail for the 4 girls who testified. About basically pleasuring Jeffrey Epstein himself. So that's kind of dumb. And after Elon started pretending that Trump was on that list, I'm just like, I don't know what the hell. Interesting. Yeah. So I am curious. I want to get your thoughts about the America Party. That's what I want to hear from you about. I want to hear from you about the America Party. I don't plan on having a very long show tonight. All Epstein's death shows is how incompetent Fed facilities and workers are, no more, no less. I don't care as much about his death as I care about his life and what he was doing in his life. They tried putting Trump in prison for life for record violations. Are you really shocked at Epstein's sentence? Especially he was a big Democrat donor. No, there was reference in even during the it is conversations which Acosta had, which basically he almost slipped that he was an asset. He practically let slip that he was an asset. Elon gives Dems majority. They prosecute Elon. Funny. Yeah. I was talking in a space yesterday with a guy who's an investor in Tesla, who's yelling at Elon and he's a big hardcore Trump supporter. And I actually was thinking about playing some of it for you because my first take on America's Party is like, stop freaking out. It's not the end of the world and whatever. And this could potentially be, we have to sort of ask the question, how do we get rid of neocons? You can't just pretend that neocons are not a problem. Look at what they're doing to Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. I mean, these are people who are the hardcore patriots of MAGA. They show up in D.C. and 3 months later, you don't even recognize them anymore. That's a problem. Elon want to move Republicans more staying cordial and politely disagreeing with 47 like RFK. Yeah, I know. I don't think he's politically savvy. This feels more to gather the independents and the moderates from both sides more than gutting MAGA to me. It's a shot in the dark, to be honest. Maybe he's trying to court some love after he got all that hate for aligning with Trump. American Party X was formed 625 and says commentary account. Not affiliated in the bio. ALX is Benny Johnson's producer. I don't see him dumping MAGA. Well, he seems to be distancing from MAGA. Let's see what Benny Johnson's saying. Their front seat to the golden era. That's interesting. That's interesting. I don't know. The only people in this party will be those trying to cling on to Musk. It's going to burn out for 2026. Yeah, I'm not feeling this party being anything. I think that this is... I think that this is not going. I don't think that this party is going to end up being anything. I agree with you. I don't think that this party, I'm not saying it's going to burn out by 2026. And they get one or two names out there, but I don't think they're going to win any seats. I don't think they're winning any seats. Who knows? Who knows? I'm going to take some calls. Take a couple of calls. Like I said, it's going to be a short show tonight, but I'm going to take a couple of calls. If you're interested in talking to me, the number to call is 972-454-0703. This is the time you should be hitting like and subscribe, by the way, in case you were confused. You can also find me at goodlogic.locals.com. 972-454-0703. Is there a banner? Do we have it? Oh, it is. The banner says call number is 972-454-0703. It's around that time that you should hit the like and subscribe buttons. It really is around that time. It is around that time. So I'm going to be paying. Look at that. Headphones on.
Call from
Dad, the man.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Thad the man. Thad the man.
Hello. I want to make 2 points. The first one is, what would Rush Limbaugh do? Well, I know because I've heard him say it about 20 times. He talked about Charles Percy. You remember Charles Percy?
Charles Brucey?
Percy.
No, I'm not familiar with him.
He was a moderate Republican senator from Illinois who Reaganites really hated. They got rid of him. He was replaced by Alan Dixon, a Democrat. And in the end, when it came down to Bork's nomination, which getting out of committee sale by 1 vote, Dixon's vote. So before getting rid of all these neocons and going scorched earth, remember Charles Percy, because Rush Limbaugh always made a big point about that whenever there was a fight.
Good point. Great point. Thank you.
The second,
So you're saying to hell with America Party.
stop the America Party. It may survive, it may not. Time will tell. We'll see. But the second point, there's this guy, Eric Metaxas, runs a YouTube channel, Socrates in the City. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Socrates in the City. No, I'm not familiar with that.
It's a decent channel.
Okay.
There's some thoughtful videos on there. Anyway, he posted out a tweet and he reminded everyone of something. Namely, that there was this general in the American Revolution who fought at Fort Ticonderoga. And at Fort Ticonderoga, we were getting our asses kicked. And suddenly this general came out of nowhere, waving his sword and everything, and turned the tide of the battle. Great American hero. That guy was, you want to guess who that general was?
Yes. Yeah.
You want to guess?
I'm sorry. You broke up on me there. I was feeling I was saying yes to your vibe, and also to a super chat.
Well, you know the Fort Ticonderoga, the general that won Fort Ticonderoga.
Fort Ticonderoga.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm mispronouncing it.
That's all right. And you know, a little bit of alcohol, just a teensy bit.
No, I'm just tired.
I got to land the plane pretty quick here, though.
No, but do you know who that general was?
Yeah. Which one?
The great American hero?
Which one?
Benedict
Arnold.
Arnold.
Benedict Arnold, the Fort Ticonderoga. Yeah, Ticonderoga. Yeah.
He was a great general.
Oh, he was phenomenal. He was massive. He was very mad. He got very mad about money. He got very mad that he didn't get enough money and credit and attention and prestige. And that's why he ended up selling out. Yeah, no, Benedict Arnold was a hero of America who really betrayed it. That's why the betrayal is remembered so deeply to this day. He was a fierce warrior on the battlefield, and he just completely stabbed us in the back because he was angry. And he also was turned by, if you saw the miniseries Turn, which I became a huge fan of this miniseries. So there's a miniseries Turn that I strongly recommend. I assume that it's factually accurate, like 90%, aside from the part that's that there's an added love story there. But basically, it talks about the Cooper ring, which was American spies, and they show you the spies from the British side as well as from the American side, and that basically his wife was pretty much a British spy. I mean, that she was working for John Marshall, who was the head of British intelligence, and yeah, he was, and Marshall was pretty freaking brilliant himself. Anyway, I gotta let you go because people.
Anyway,
You're great. Your first
your
first point was a great point, though. Your first point was a great point. That even small losses that feel insignificant because they're people who may not be true to the cause can end up having very dramatic ripple effect. And I appreciate the gravity of that. And it's a great point you're making there.
Okay, let me tie it up though. The point Metaxas made, the Socrates and the Sea guy, is that Arnold turned because he was butthurt. Elon turned because he was butthurt.
Yeah, no, I saw the connection you were making there. I saw the connection.
Okay, I just want to make it clear.
You brought it home for some of the callers who might have missed why you brought up Benedict Arnold, but yeah, the point he's making is both were butthurt, both Benedict and Elon. Not everyone who's it's possible. A lot of people speculate similarly. I don't know that I would label him butthurt, but yeah, I understand your point, my brother. All right, have a great night, my friend.
You too.
All right. Ross Perot 2.0 seems a lesson has been forgotten. Look like Charles Purdue, that guy. I hate to complain. Maybe I've been drinking too much. Maybe I missed your response to my earlier message, but I am struggling. I did say that. And I said, they even complimented me and said that, hey, I tend to cheer you up. You were the first one in here, brother. You're saying they're glad I was here. I've been drinking, not doing well, but you always seem to help. Thank you for that. And I use that as an opportunity to have people hit the like button. So I hope I can be successful in cheering you up. I think the American Party is going to end up being I think they're going to end up taking from the Libertarian Party. That's what they're going to end up doing. That's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm seeing here. I think they're going to end up taking from the Libertarian Party, and hopefully not much more beyond that. But you have to have concerns. You have to have concerns about the impact that they can peel off from MAGA. That's why I'm saying it was a gift. What happened here? That they came out with this really stupid message of, MAGA's the past, woke is just a diversion. This is no, not when it's like they're transing children. That's not a diversion. That's not a diversion. That's an enemy which has to be vanquished. It's not just a diversion. I think and that we're targeting the middle of America. I'm targeting the middle of America. Whenever you target the middle, another better.
Call from
Greg.
Greg,
Yes,
where are you from, Greg?
New Jersey, and that's why I'm calling. Because 1978, you hear all these people complaining about the rhinos. I don't like them either. But sometimes we got to live with them, and I'll tell you why. Back in 78, there was a guy named Jeff Bell that knocked Clifford Case out. He was a liberal Republican senator, U.S. senator, and he fought for civil rights, and that was a good thing. And he was an all-around good guy. So a guy named Jeff Bell says he's not conservative enough. Since then, in 1980, Bill Bradley won, and we haven't had a Republican senator elected in New Jersey ever since. So sometimes we got to live with rhinos, because if we don't have the majority, what's going to happen to the country?
I understand you. So does that mean Republicans just give up on ever taking Jersey or these these Democrat strongholds?
But what happened with Bell was he was exalted as this great conservative leader for Republicans in New Jersey, but he got smeared by Bill Bradley. I mean, it wasn't even a contest. And I agree with you. I live in Hunterdon County, and it's kind of Republican here,
but they've thrown us now because of gerrymandering into the Somerset district. And all we do is have these liberal Democrats, running our county, even though the local people are Republican. So, but I'm more concerned about the national level. And look, I don't like Lindsey Graham. Yeah, I'm not too keen on Susan Collins, but at least we have the majority. Okay, if you knock Collins out, who's going to be, I mean, she's old, but who's going to be the Republican replacement for her? If you run a conservative like you did Bell.
From Maine.
Yeah. And same, and Murkowski's disgusting, but she won because of that ranked choice voting. Because the lady who's running against her was much better. But the whole thing in New Jersey is we're never going to get, I don't think we'll ever get like a right-wing conservative guy elected. I hope Chitterelli gets it.
Mm-hmm.
I think he has a good chance because Cheryl looked terrible in those interviews. She looked like she didn't even know what she was talking about. But that's all I wanted to say because I know we don't like the rhinos, but what are we going to do?
I feel you.
And you and I are suffering in New Jersey.
Oh my God, it's awful. I can't wait to get out of here. You're making me pull this up now. I'm pulling up presidential elections from New Jersey. Okay, 2024, Donald got 46%. Okay.
Yep.
For the Republican. Joe Biden got 57% in 2020. Donald only got 41% then. Barack Obama got 58%. So let's see when the last time you saw the president get 46%. Bush got 46.24 in 2004. He only got 40% in 2000. 46.5% went to 96 to Bob Dole. I think we're if you have the right candidate in there, I think we can get Jersey back. I do.
We're close. Joe, I used to work for CWA, and they've got a lot of pull, but most of the members, or a lot of the members I represented, hate the Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
But the unions do have a lot of pull. But a lot of the men, I represented road workers and engineers, those guys are all Republican. But the union propaganda, and they really do fight to get the Democrats. And believe me, they spend a lot of money, and you're ordered to take people to the polls and all that. The Republicans have to have a great game plan.
Great ground
even with Chitterelli,
a great ground.
They have to have it. They have to, because the unions, no matter what, they're going to vote for the Democrat, no matter who it is. And believe me, I've been in the middle of it. I've seen it. It's the CWA, the teachers. They have a lot of power, and they throw around a lot of money, Joe, more than you can ever imagine. I've seen it. I've lived it. And I was one of those few people that was a Republican, and if I would speak up in a meeting, you would be ostracized immediately. So you had to be very careful what you said, because they'll chop your head off.
Interesting. All right. Thank you, Greg. That was you made some great points. And
thanks, Joe.
And there are points that we should remember as far as, and I think that along the same line is something that I say often, which is you need the right leader at the right time for the right place. In other words, I would not be the right leader for California because my values don't align with what your typical Californian values are. You need the right leader for that time in that place. So that's an important caution. That being said, if you're targeting the middle, that's what you're saying. I'm targeting the middle. Tell me which person has ever won with that strategy. That strategy is a loser every time.
Oh, I agree. I think Musk is nuts at this point. I think nobody wants a John Anderson or some clown like that running for president, and third parties don't work.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
You're probably too young to remember John Anderson, but he was horrible.
I don't remember John Anderson. I do remember Ross Perot. So
yeah, well, there was a guy before him named John Anderson, and he had no traction, but he did pull from Carter, I think. I'm not that old, but I kind of remember.
All right, my brother. I appreciate the call.
Thanks, Joe.
Have a good night.
Bye.
All right, 972-454-0703 is the number to call. See, calls get better. Either Pam is clinically slow or this release is designed to damage Trump. See, the timing of this makes no sense. You wouldn't drop it on now. You wouldn't drop it right while Elon is attacking you and falling on his face. You let Elon fall on his face, and then you're like, oh, by the way, this is what the DOJ is coming out with. It's a weird time to come out with this. It's a very, very weird thing in general. And connected is designed to damage Trump. Connected to Elon's. I trust nothing about Elon's Mac. I don't trust anything about it.
Call from
Kimmy Hunt.
Kimmy, my girl.
Hi, Joe.
How are you feeling?
I'm about as weak as I've ever been in my entire life.
I'm sorry.
And it's okay. It's a weird kind of exhaustion. It is not a biological exhaustion. I finally determined it's a toxic exhaustion because of it's like man-made. It's the weirdest. It's weird. It's weird.
I'm sure it's this. I'm sure it's probably part of the side effects of the drugs, because this is probably supposed to induce some levels of sleep.
It's the chemo and the radiation at the same time.
Yep.
Because but today I had to go for an MRI at 9:45 a.m. I had to drive 40 minutes away to get an MRI because I want to let everybody know that on I did not have my radiation on Friday because it was the 4th of July, but on Thursday, get this, Joe, you're going to laugh. My radiology oncologist name is Dr. Einstein.
Nice. Don't let that scare you. It doesn't mean he's a complete idiot.
Well, he is. His name is Douglas Einstein. And how do you know somebody is a gyno?
A gyno?
Mm-hmm.
I usually wait for them to open their mouth, but
well, first of all, he walked in with his head uncovered.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, he had a Brooklyn accent.
Not all irreligious Jews are gynos. I reserve gyno.
Okay.
And I reserve gyno specifically people who cloak themselves in their Judaism while completely rejecting everything about their Judaism. So I get. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? But
here's the kicker. Here's the kicker. When I asked him, because I've been doing some research, and on cervical cancer, ivermectin has been known to potentiate the radiation and the chemo, and to help and aid in making the tumor go away quicker, because it aids in something called apoptosis, which means cell death. So he had been told by, get this, my regular oncologist, his last name is Dr. Guy, G-U-Y, and my married name is G-U-Y.
Right.
So, and no relation. But anyway, Dr. Guy had informed Dr. Einstein that I was looking into ivermectin. Well, this is totally against the hospital's protocol.
Naturally.
And so he comes out and he hands me this stapled article, and he said, I want you to read this. I want you to be aware of this. And it was from the New York Times.
Did it have a picture of a horse getting like,
Yes, it did.
Really?
It did. It was like Mr. Ed. Mm-hmm.
Don't take my
Mr.
medicine.
Ed fell over dead, but he said, I want you to read this right here. And and I read and I said, in large doses, ivermectin has been known to cause, and there were neurological symptoms in children. And I said, okay. And I looked at him. He says, if you have any of these symptoms whatsoever when you are taking radiation, we will have to stop your treatment. And I said, okay, well, I won't take it.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts about the American Party? What are your thoughts?
Okay, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's stupid. And I think that it will fail. I think if it has any purpose whatsoever, it would be for MAGA to try to figure out how to leverage it, to use it as a weapon against the neocons, and use it to threaten to go with them against anything the neocons did. We need to leverage it. We do not need to join it, but we need to leverage it and frighten the crap out of the neocons.
That's a very fine line to walk, Kimmy.
I know it is, but
that's a very fine line to walk.
I think Elon, let's put it this way. I think Elon is a betrayer. He flip-flops. He changes his mind and his whim at every thing. He's a very immature, emotional man, probably because of some of his autism. He's very, very immature. He reminds me of like an 18-year-old guy that just can't make up his mind. And I don't see how he would be the leader of any kind of a political party. Yes, he is a genius when it comes to engineering and things like that, and that's his forte, and my gosh, let him run with it. But this is not his bag.
Yeah. I see what you're saying as far as like the whole man-child thing.
He
Elon.
is. He's a man-child. He is.
That picture is just, I don't know what the hell he's thinking.
He's trying to go for the Norman Rockwell thing. He's trying to go for the Norman Rockwell.
Yes, that was a very Norman Rockwell painting. It's like he actually said, "Hey, make a Norman Rockwell painting out of me in front of American flag," and looking like a tired, worn businessman who's been beaten up slightly. That's exactly what it is.
He's gotten into a little bit of a, fight on the street somehow, or
I think the imagery there. I think the Norman Rockwell is. I didn't realize until you just said it, but that's exactly the imagery that he's trying to get. The classic Americana, American hard worker, laborer. Is trying. With the loosened tie, and it's just like if he had picked any other person, any other man there, I think it's a better picture. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because it's just
the
idea is we're fighting for the everyman, not Elon Musk. You don't tell me Elon Musk is the everyman. There's a lot of things you can say about Elon Musk, a lot of things you can say about that guy, but the last thing he is the everyman. And
no, and he can't even decide on a woman and a family. He just he's like a bee that flies from flower to flower to flower. And in this political arena, I think he's also a bee that flies from flower to flower to flower.
Yes.
There's no permanence or consistency there. And for somebody to join a party like that, it's just so unstable that I would question anybody that would want to align themselves in that realm. But there is one third party that was successful. And it was called the Republican Party back in the 1850s. And it supplanted the Whigs eventually.
But the only reason it worked is because it supplanted the Whigs. That's the only reason why.
It supplanted the Whigs, but it had a purpose, abolition of slavery. It had a purpose. This does not have a purpose, really.
Nothing shooting for the middle of America. This is just, I saw this and I was like, wow, that's really a gift he gave them. And he's like, I'm not even really trying. This is something that's not even really trying. Because you wouldn't be saying MAGA is the past and don't worry about woke. It's like, just no. That's not the message you need to go with.
Trump has to do this right. Joe. That's true. If he fights too hard against it, this becomes a tar baby. You know what a tar baby is?
I don't think you keep saying that word, and I think every time you say it, I cringe that I'm going to lose my channel.
Oh, well, it was Brer Fox and Brer Rabbit, and they put a tar baby at the side of the road, and
please stop saying that term. Please stop saying that term. Please stop saying that term.
I will. Be quiet now.
The host of this show disavows anything that's remotely racist whatsoever.
No, and it's not. It's just a story that it means getting tangled up in something that you can't free yourself from because it's so sticky and messy. And
is that really what that term means?
Yeah, because it's if you would punch a bucket of
right
glue and can't get out of it like gum. Let's call it gum. And you stick your hand in it, and then you can't get out and you're stuck. And that's what this can be to Trump if he doesn't fight it exactly right. And I'm not sure he's figured out how to fight this exactly right yet.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But the last thing we want is for it to become any kind of baby. Of any color.
Baby. No baby. but it's just, I don't know. I think that that's such a vivid story that stuck in my brain when I was a little girl. My grandpa told me, and he was born in 1900 from North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the story my grandpa told me. But yeah, and it just was talking about don't get stuck in a mess.
Yeah.
Don't find yourself getting so mad that you fight something that you shouldn't be fighting and get stuck in a mess. So it just reminds me of, Trump probably needs to leave this alone a little bit.
All right. How much longer you have on your chemo?
Oh, well, I got 2 more weeks on my chemo, 2 Mondays, and I've got 1 more week of my external radiation, and then next week I start internal radiation. Internal radiation, they give me general anesthesia and make me lay in a recovery room for several hours, and they wheel me back in, unpack me, and send me home.
All right. This is what I want you to think when you're dealing with that. Joe says, I'm going to kick cancer's ass. Okay?
I am. You know what? Oh, I meant to tell you, I guess, when Dr. Einstein on Thursday looked at when I was getting my external radiation, he came in and he told me it looks like it has shrunk significantly.
Oh, thank God.
He said, and that is why we were sending you for an MRI on Sunday. So this MRI will let me know and that'll let him know how many internal radiations to give me. So keep praying for me, everybody.
Amen.
It is shrinking. Hopefully the cancer feels way worse than I do, because I can't even I can't even walk into the kitchen. You're gonna
kick its ass. You got this.
I can't even step over the the tub to get a shower. I'm taking these foamy things and washing myself. So I am so weak that I can't hardly move at this point. They have to wheel me into treatment and wheel me back out to the car. So it's gotten really bad. So just keep praying for me, and I'm hanging in there, and I love you all. And I saw you went live, and I had to jump and watch what you're doing, because unfortunately I have insomnia too. So God love everybody.
Have a good night, Kimmy.
And thank you so much.
All right, take care.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That is Kimmy Guy. I left links to, if you want to support her. She's dealing with a lot of costs now. She's fighting cancer. If you'd like to support her, and if you can and would like to, the links are in the description and also pinned in the chat. So is this a call-in show for the rest of the stream? Probably, although I think the stream's almost ending. I'm going to take like 1 more call and then I'm going to go. So that was pretty funny. So yeah, the number to call is 972-454-0703. I think that this is the America Party is not going to be something that is going to, I think it's going to fade pretty fast. And the way he approached this today was almost like a layup. The real question is what impact it'll have on the 2020.
Call from
Darth Sidious.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Darth.
Joe, it's been a minute.
It has been a minute.
Oh, how you been?
I'm good. What are your thoughts on the American Party? I want to try and get one or two. I want to try and run some.
I will be brief because I missed the first portion of the show, and I don't know if you touched on this or not, but it bears fucking noting that the most epic failed third-party attempt go all the way back to 1912. Teddy Roosevelt split the Republican Party with the Progressive Party, aka the Bull Moose Party. That led directly to the election of Woodrow Wilson and every subsequent thing with the New Deal going on further with that. And I feel like we are perfectly primed right now for another absolute disaster of that magnitude. And I don't think anyone would disagree that Woodrow Wilson
was the worst
president in the United States history. Yeah,
no question. Racist, disaster, expansionist. And he's the one. All our foreign policy neocons are offspring of Woodrow Wilson, who literally played KKK movies in the White House. He was a terrible human being and a terrible president, and everything about him makes him the absolute. It's not even close. There's as bad.
No.
It's hard. Joe Biden tried hard to beat him, but
He did, and he failed.
it's. I think everyone's going to fail. I mean,
But
it's almost like you can consider it like, you can't compare like Babe Ruth to like, Otani. It's like different eras. You can't really compare. So it's hard to compare Biden to Woodrow Wilson, but he was in a league of his own, Woodrow Wilson.
yeah,
So you're saying that's the
I-
outgrowth of splitting off from the party.
Yeah, I feel like the Democrats are primed to make another great leap forward, another
Progressive
Green New
jump.
Deal, whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, another great big progressive jump. And if they can use Elon to essentially split their Republican Party, pretty much they have carte blanche at that point to just like go ahead and do what the progressives do, which
If
is
we could
push forward.
if we get to a four-party system, I'd be happy with that. If we can get to a viable four-party system, I'd be happy.
If we could split the progressive Democrats and the moderate Democrats and the MAGAs and the rhinos, and we could have 4 equally useless and non-influential parties, we could basically be Europe.
That's true.
But that's when you get the backroom dealings and the coalitions, and it'll always end up being business as usual because you need a majority.
Yeah.
You need more numbers than the other team, and that's how these things work in places like Canada. They just have the 2 worst parties team up to beat everybody else.
Yeah. Darth, I want to take one more call real quick. So
Yep.
Let me get you off here. I appreciate
No problem, Joe.
it was great.
Yep.
Great.
Absolutely.
Great historical reference there. Really good job.
I mean, it's where we're at right now, and I'm worried about it. So, everybody, if you don't know about Woodrow Wilson, go look.
I'm here to calm you all down. Don't worry about these things.
I'm concerned. I'm not worried. I'm concerned, and I see a disaster on the horizon. I would be remiss in not saying, hey, maybe we should really think about the historical context.
Maybe just look back a little bit. Yeah, I feel you.
Yep.
Thank you, brother. Have a good night.
All right. Later, Joe.
I'll take one more call just because I saw someone's desperately trying to get in here. I felt bad that I didn't take him. Should I just call him myself? I just call him. There was a 201 number here that was trying to get through to me over and over and over again. And they just kept missing. They kept missing. And I felt bad about that. Someone's trying to call over and over. I tried getting him in. Should I do that? Should I call him back? Could be a her. I don't know. It could be a they, them. I will tell you now, as I'm starting to land my plane, do not eat lab meat. I had a phenomenal barbecue tonight. There was no lab meat there because lab meat, it's for they, them. It's not meant for you. It's not meant for me. It's for they, them. I'm going to call them. Let's just get this out of the way. We'll see. Well, let's see if we get him on the phone.
Hello?
Hey, this is Roger from the Jim and Jerry Show. How you doing tonight? You're our 100th caller.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. So, you a big fan of the show?
Yeah. Now, good news is I called too many times, so if I'm the 100th caller, I might also be the 90th, the 80th, and the 70th.
Wow. What's your name, brother?
Brian.
Brian. What's on your mind tonight, Brian?
Hey, no, I thought, I'm good. I just depressed. I thought the show was over.
No, I saw you called a whole bunch of times, so I was like, let me call this individual back. And what are your thoughts about the American Party?
Yeah, it does. I don't think it's. Who knows? It's okay. I agree with you that it's not going to do anything except potentially spoil the Republican Party's chances.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most it could possibly do. It doesn't seem to be aimed at any real demographic except people who might vote libertarians and strict, fiscal conservatives. those kinds of, who it's far from. I mean, that's part of what makes his branding kind of on point, despite being ineffective. It's not a MAGA party. It's not really just. I don't think it's designed to appeal to MAGA. It's designed to appeal to the broader certain parts of the coalition that are necessary, but not really part of that populist base. That's designed to appeal to the much more urban, more fiscally centric Republicans, and it might get enough to just trash the Republican Party in general. That depends on the future.
Here's the thing: I am very concerned about fiscal irresponsibility. I don't discount that there's. I feel as if every time we expand our debt, I feel as if the Grim Reaper is laughing with excitement. It's almost like you know what it's like. It's like we have this balloon, and we're just, how many more breaths of air can we shove into that balloon before it pops? That's what it feels like. There's just this balloon that's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So I certainly understand the libertarians and all the people, all the fiscally conservative folk who are like, we need to dial back our spending. I agree with you on that. But if you're doing it now in this context, where you're basically saying, well, we're stuck with these 50 million illegal aliens in here, to me, that's not fiscally responsible either, because that is a burden that we are going to have to carry until we can get rid of this weight. And that's why I look at it like, yes, I am very conscious. I'm very conscious about the dangers of blowing up our deficit more and more and more and more. I am very, very conscious of that. But to the extent that we're exhaling so that we can try and get a release valve to try and remove some of the expense that we have by draining out illegal aliens, that even the most peaceful ones, every dollar we take in them in tax revenue costs us $2 in social services. That's how bad it is. And you're talking about $150 billion a year that if we can just wipe out and send back 75 to 80% of them and cut that $150 billion down to 20 billion. So I think that helps alleviate the pressure in the balloon. And accordingly, I think that it's actually fiscally a sound move. So
I agree.
So that's why I'm less bothered by this.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think your position is rational, correct, and complete. That's what makes Musk's behavior all the more mystifying.
Yeah, unless he's just butthurt, which is possible.
Unless he's butthurt, or unless there's something else going on that, because he wasn't. When did he decide to become a debt hawk? He was a socialist. Then he was like some techno-futurist. Then he's never been a huge debt hawk until recently. He was all about getting rid of waste. The best I think of, the best probably one of the most probable scenarios is that he has this hyper type of what's the word I'm looking for, that he just hyper focuses on one thing at a time.
Yeah.
And then he gets really into the whole waste, fraud, abuse, and debt angle, and then he does everything he can to attack that, and he gets frustrated by the political process being what it is.
Almost as if he's autistic.
Yeah, exactly. And then he gets completely frustrated with the political just the facts of the political process.
Mm-hmm.
And Trump, to his discredit, he responds by throwing a tantrum. Trump, to his discredit, does not. It's really unbelievable. It's like, I forget what I was saying, but he's like, he builds coalitions by just taking people he dislikes and just trying to bully them into submission. He did it with Massey. He's doing it with Trump. He did it with Tucker. I don't know, just for a guy who managed to win presidential office twice, does he understand to try? Why doesn't he?
He's very much about his ego. He's very much about his ego, and if he feels his ego getting buffed, he lashes out. He lashes out. That's part of the Trump equation. So
and it hurts him.
Yeah,
I mean, it just
hurts.
That's
true.
And it hurts the rest of us.
If he could, but you're not going to teach this old dog new tricks. All you can hope is that the barking doesn't overshadow the work, And also, you have to hope that the work doesn't get too consumed with just short term, what's going to happen to the country over the next 3 years rather than long term thinking. And I do think he gets way too consumed with that. Brian, I appreciate that I called you. And the number of times you tried calling me. And I hope next time I do a call and you call back again, my brother.
All right. I mean, I feel a little embarrassed.
You gotta be more aggressive. Be more aggressive. Get in here. All right, my brother. No, you were really great. It was a good call calling you back. Have a good night, my friend.
All right. Thank you.
All right. That was Brian. He was awesome. All right. That's my show. I'm sticking to it. You know what they say? Do not eat the bugs. Don't do it. Don't eat the bugs. I'm doing a quick check over here, making sure I didn't miss anything I didn't miss this over here. I apologize that I sent out my notification late. Everything was all last minute hock type of thing because I was just trying to get a show out. But these were two big topics that I really wanted to cover tonight. I hope to see you all tomorrow at an earlier time. So set your watch like let's say 21 hours from now. Thereabouts. Till then, have a good night, everyone. And as always, Godspeed.